Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to everybody watching us joining us through YouTube and Facebook. Good afternoon. This is Making Change for Women in Tourism, our online discussion about the state of women in Philippine tourism this afternoon. My name is Randy Alampay. I'll be your host this afternoon. For those of you who are on YouTube, I've been tasked to remind you. So please click and like and subscribe the button below. Okay. So welcome, especially to all the women in our audience today. This is for everyone, but especially for you. So to start our session today, formally start our discussion today, we'll hear some welcome remarks from the Dean of the UP Asian Institute of Tourism, Dr. Leticia Susan Lagmay Solis.
Good day, everyone, faculty, students, and staff, guests, and especially to our valued resource speakers, Ms. Monette Hamlin, Director Karen Tiopes, Professor Julene Dilnoan, and Ms. Candice Ramos, who actually was one of my very good students several years back. Welcome to this event that was organized by our UP Asian Institute of Tourism Gender and Development team in partnership with the Women's Business Council of the Philippines. This afternoon's webinar is a fitting tribute to all women who we know assume extraordinary roles in society and to honor those who have brought about positive change. Further, it is also a platform where concrete measures that can be pursued to address issues that women in general, and particularly those in the tourism sector, are faced with can be identified. Not unknown to many is the fact that there are many challenges and areas of concern that women continue to face daily on a wide range of issues, including those relating to health, education, career, violence against women, and institutional mechanisms, among others. Definitely, we can look forward to the continuing pursuit of finding ways to protect, support, and nurture our women in tourism, not only in these courses as what we have now and events during the National Women's Month celebrations, but as we mainstream the advocacy of promoting gender equality and empowerment of women in activities in our respective organizations and in all aspects of daily life. Congratulations in advance to the organizing committee and thank you to all the participants for your support. Have a constructive and productive afternoon. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dean Solis. So once again, welcome to Making Change for Women in Tourism. I'm your host, Randy Alampay. My co-host is a fresh graduate of the UP Asian Institute of Tourism, and she will demonstrate resilience today by coming in and out of the show because it appears that she's having problems with her connection. So we will see how resilient she is and how resourceful a young woman can be this afternoon. Okay. So as a backgrounder or for what we're doing this afternoon, this is AIT's part in the celebration of National Women's Month uh, of the University of the Philippines Diliman campus. As you may know, or as some of you may know, for the past month we've been having conversations. We've been talking to and listening to alumni, women graduates of the institute who have been who are big achievers in the tourism industry, and listening to them and hearing their stories and experiences and challenges that they've conquered in the many years in the tourism industry. So this afternoon, so we'll start our talk by hearing some of those voices, some of those ideas from our women making change in tourism. So here's a short video from from selected alumni from the UP Asian Institute of Tourism.
The thing is, you must never pressure yourself into proving yourself to another person, because it's just recognizing your self-worth. It's just recognizing that you are there as a capable individual, that you are actually accountable for their well-being and not the other way around. The responsibility will actually rest on you, even if you're a woman, even if there are 100 men under you, if they all report to you. You will have to be accountable for them, and thus requires their respect. So you don't enforce respect, but you be firm about it as well. You have to just really know that at the end of the day, you're the boss. There are no two ways about it.
We have to drive, especially as a UP graduate and an AIT graduate, we have to drive that conversation and push towards a zero tolerance policy. I always say use your voice, right? Whether you're an employee, whether you're a supervisor, whether you're the owner of the company, use your voice to put a stop and drive a zero tolerance policy towards this. And you can make that happen by acting quickly and firmly against behaviors that do not promote respect for women.
In terms of, for example, promotions or giving opportunities, ako kasi I'm that kind of manager that would try to give equal opportunity to others, whether it's a training opportunity or it's a trip opportunity, or even the work that is given to a particular person. It's more based on their capacities and not about being male or female, not about their gender. It's really all about their competence and their capabilities, even moving up and their promotions. I'm always open to the staff members. I would try to point out their strengths and their weaknesses, just to help them with their career movement.
This work is very challenging. What you have to do is to keep your purpose. Sa tourism industry, doon ang lahat ng opportunities to help. Doon ang lahat ng opportunities to let your purpose shine. Doon ang ating puso bilang mga kababaihan. Tourism industry needs that soft heart of a woman. I understand that as I grow old. The work is inspiring. Yun ang katotohanan doon. The work is very inspiring. Lalo doon sa mga sumisimula. At marami kang pwedeng ma-accomplish as you move on with your purpose sa tourism.
The pressure came only after I got promoted, because role was given to me. I became more firm, and I have to be more decided, more directed in as far as running the day-to-day is concerned. At some point, syempre, this job separated me from my family physically. I guess it's discipline. If you know what you want for yourself and you want balance, you will give it to yourself. I was good at managing my time. There were times that I worked long nights. There were times that I would bring home work. But there was never a time that, I would sacrifice the needs of my family ahead of my work responsibility.
If you are in the tourism industry, this is your passion, then go for it. Don't be afraid. Just go for it. Those that I've mentored who are already successful at their own field now in the tourism industry, if I see them now being the director of sales or residence manager or operations head, I feel that for me that I find it as a success thing for me, because I think I was one of the mentors that made them that way. So for me that's how I define success for professional thing. But family, I think also success can also apply to family. If you see that your family is intact and then you're able to still do what you can do, then for me that's already a measurement of success.
Okay, thank you very much. Like if this were a live presentation, I would have asked you all to give a hand to our alumni, featured alumni, our alumni. So as you may have seen this afternoon, we have four guests representing a variety of backgrounds, professional, generational backgrounds, as well as a variety of interests and advocacies, especially related to equality and empowerment of women. So this afternoon, what we'll do is we'll first get to know our speakers individually. We'll talk to them one by one, and then we will, after we've met or learned about our different speakers, then we will have a discussion about where we are now, where women are now, and how much farther we need to go, how much more we need to work on. Okay, so today our first guest is Monette Iturralde Hamlin. Monette is the founder and president of Team Asia, a 28-year-old award-winning marketing communications firm that brings brands to the next level of experience. She's also the chair of the Women's Business Council of the Philippines, or WomenBizPH. In the tourism industry, she's very much active in the MICE sector. She was a private sector representative to the Tourism Promotions Board, representing the MICE sector. And I think because it's Women's Month, I think I have to mention this. It's part of the. She was chosen as one of the 2014 10 outstanding alumni of the College of Holy Spirit, where she earned her AB in psychology, graduating summa cum laude. Okay, so I think I needed to mention that because Holy Spirit. Now, so welcome, Monette. Good afternoon.
Hi, Randy. Thank you very much for that introduction. Nung sinabi mo kanina, generational, naisip ko bigla, is that because I have white hair? Kaya generational?
I did not say anything about who belongs to what. Okay, so I think generation naman is a construct, di ba? Parang ganun.
Totoo yan.
Okay. So, yeah, so what's your can you tell us a little bit first about the Women's Business Council of the Philippines?
Okay, so the Women's Business Council is a almost 25-year-old organization. We were actually set up by DTI a long time ago because DTI realized that it is important to have a voice for women women in business, because business was being run by men. And so it was important to put together a group of women leaders so that we could address the issues that are just for women. And so for the past 25 years, we have been the voice of women. We have been advocating for access to finance, access to market, access to networks, and as well as leadership. And now, because of the digital age, access to technology is very important. So yon, that's the Women's Business Council, and I am actually chair right now. And also, it is the Women's Month. So you know that the National Women's Month is only celebrated in the Philippines, because
No, I did not know that.
internationally, we only do March 8th. That's the International Women's Day. So here in the Philippines, we're special because we really put a lot of weight on women. In fact, we have a Magna Carta, that's a law for women. And we are actually the envy of many countries because we are ahead of them. We have laws that protect our women, that ensure equality. And there's so many studies that have shown that in the Philippines, the women are actually leaders and they have a seat at the board, the board table. So, Randy, is it okay if I share about Team Asia?
Yeah, sure. Vic, can we give Monette the sharing period? Okay.
Kita ba?
Yes.
Okay. So, Team Asia is proudly women-owned and women-led. I set this up almost 29 years ago. So May 15, it will be 29 years. And this photo that we had here was actually taken 3 years ago. And as you can see, that's a lot of women in the organization. In terms of the top brass, in other words, the leadership, we are mainly women. Generational na nga. So my daughter, Bea, is now the managing director for Women's Biz. So for the International Women's Day on March 8th, I actually had a short video of Bea, and if I may just play that.
Hi everybody, good morning, happy Monday, and more importantly, happy International Women's Day. I'm Bea, I'm the Managing Director of Team Asia, and we are here to talk about International Women's Day. This 2021 UN Women's theme for IWD is focused on women in leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. Today, we honor the fabulous women of the world and the many, many hats we all wear. Mother, daughter, sister, partner, friend, lover, advocate, builder, inventor, medical frontliner, leader. I believe we are all born to lead. We lead when we nurture. We lead when we care. We lead when we invent and innovate solutions for today and tomorrow. We lead when we build communities. We lead when we connect each other. We lead when we speak. We lead when we write. We lead when we teach. We lead when we set goals and do everything in our power to achieve them. We lead when we dream. We lead when we say we are equal. And we lead when we live. And we live, ladies, in such a transformative time where we can actually create, build, and nurture an equal future in a COVID-19 world. And what I want today is for us to challenge the other people around us to do the same. We all deserve an equal future in a COVID-19 world, and I know we can do that. So let's make it happen. Let's challenge others to do the same. The men and women of Team Asia actually challenge and invite everybody to send words of empowerment, encouragement, and inspiration to all the women out there, especially those who need to hear it today. That they create, that they contribute, that they nourish, and that they are part of this equal future we are talking about. we are launching customizable cards that can house your words, phrases, sentences, paragraphs of encouragement and empowerment to these fabulous women. You can also tag them on the Team Asia post that we are launching in just a bit to show them the love, to show them that we value them and that we appreciate their awesomeness as they continue to build and nurture this world for all of us. Let's spread the love, ladies and gentlemen. Let's spread the love and be grateful that we have such amazing people in our lives, really pushing us to be who we are, to lead, but more importantly, to live. So thank you so much. Let's challenge and spread the love, and let's have a great week ahead. Happy International Women's Day. Rock on. Hi, everybody. Good morning.
sorry.
Hi, everybody. Good.
Okay. So these are the cards that we launched. And as you can see, one is I am single and capable. I am a woman and a leader. And I'm a mother and I am superwoman, because in many cases, that's how we women feel, right? We are actually taking care of the world. So we also at Team Asia for this month signed up for United Nations Women Empowerment Principles. The UN WEPs is a set of seven items that we are going to embrace. And first on top of that list is that we will make sure that we have women leaders. And then we go into inclusiveness. So there are a lot of things, taking care of health and all of that for women. So we launched this and we are actually working for diversity, for inclusion, as well as for equality. And then we also have, during the lockdown, we launched Breakfast to Business. This is a podcast where we talk about important things. And for Women's Month, we have two podcasts so far. The first one is The Work Knows No Stereotypes. Why? Because we feel that any kind of work can be done by men and women equally. Another thing that we had for B2B is more women at the table, because we believe that if we have women in the leadership positions, in the policy-making areas, that we will be able to ensure that we protect and make sure that women have equal rights and equal opportunities. We also have the Red Circle at Team Asia, and this is our integrated publication. And for this month, I wrote an article called What is a Woman's Worth? Do you see the photo? Or this is actually a painting on the left. I was very disturbed when I saw this painting. And this painting was done by a young child in India, because every time that he would overhear his dad talk about his mom to his friends, he'd say, "Oh, she's nothing. She's just a housewife." He was disturbed because he felt that his mom was busy all the time. And so what he did was to paint everything that his mom would do in a single day. And you can see that from feeding the chickens, milking the cow, cooking, going to market, washing clothes, washing dishes, fetching water, and all of that. And because this was such a beautiful rendition of what a woman's real worth is, which is we call this unpaid work. This is work that we women do at home that maybe in addition to the career work that we do right now, this part is not really paid for and many times unappreciated. The other thing is, I really feel that we women need to speak up, because we have this voice in the head that inhibits us from speaking up, even though we may have the idea the same as anybody else, because we inhibit ourselves. Men who don't just go out and speak the same thing and then say, "Oh, that was my idea. I wish I had spoken." So I'd like to encourage all the women to speak up, because we have the same ideas and we may even be more creative. I'm not saying that women are much better than men. I just say that we should all be given equal opportunity. So that's it. Thank you for listening to this short presentation.
Thank you, Monette. So maybe let's talk more specifically about tourism from your background as as an event organizer, the many years in MICE. So in the video we showed, there was we had Pam Davila of the World Trade Center, and she was talking about. I interviewed her, and then she also said that as a woman, my boss, basically, she had to learn um, the language of the engineers, who happened to be mostly male, because she was now thrust into operations. So in the tourism industry, and particularly in MICE, do we still have that kind of boxes, like these are engineering, etc., that these are generally positions for the men, and so forth, and these are the positions for women? Have we made progress in that side of it?
I believe that we have made a lot of progress compared to 29 years ago when I started my business. Ibang-iba na talaga ngayon. I think women are given a lot of opportunities. In fact, Pam will agree to this, that whenever we have our Paseos meetings, mukhang mas marami ang babae kesa sa lalaki that are attending. And we're talking about the leadership of the different tourism organizations that are part of Paseos. So there's a lot of women leadership right now. Of course, there are still some preconceived ideas na pag yung kakargahin mabigat, dapat lalaki yan. No? But I don't see as many women working in the logistics side of it, the carrying and the setting up of the stages, for example. But in terms of leadership, in terms of sales and marketing, operations, I would firmly believe that women have made the mark and we're there already.
Okay, thank you, Monette. So you brought up many themes in those slides. So we're just talking about work knowing no stereotypes, and you're with the Women's Business Council, where then the theme now is getting more women at the table. But there is the question there. So maybe we can go back, review those other themes. But I'd like now to turn to our next guest, because so is it like you like Monette mentioned, there's a lot of leadership, women leadership in the tourism industry, but what about those in the nasa laylayan? Okay, so I'd like to toss it now to our next guest. Our next guest is the regional director of the Department of Tourism in Eastern Visayas. Regional Director, or RD, Karen Chopes, holds a bachelor's degree in business management from UP Tacloban and an MBA from the Philippine School of Business Administration. She has been the DOT Regional Director of Region 8 or Eastern Visayas since sabihin ko pa ba? For many years. And actually, it was a privilege to work and to see the strength of RD Chopes, because I happened to be involved in a project with her office, and with her personally in 2014, which was immediately after Yolanda. So if there's anyone to represent resilience in the Department of Tourism, I can't think of anybody else other than RD Karen Chopes. Good afternoon, RD.
Good afternoon, Randy. Na-touch
Okay ba?
naman ang intro mo.
Okay ba?
Umiyak.
Sige, di ba, recorded naman to. So pwede mong gamitin yung video dun sa sa mga promo. But yung so I wanted to ask you, kasi you have many projects that you support in Region 8, Samar, Northern Samar, that are also community-based, and so like if we look at the reports about gender equality in the Philippines, medyo mataas ang Pilipinas. And one of the things that raises our ranking up is because we have many women leaders. We've had what? Four women secretaries of tourism. So that carries a lot of weight for it. But question lang is, what progress have we made as far as the situation of women in the communities naman so what's your observation, what's your insight about what's the situation for women, especially in mga rural destinations natin? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Simulan natin sa ganito, Randy, no? When I first joined the tourism industry by becoming the first provincial tourism officer of the province of Leyte, ang mindset ng ating mga local leaders dati was that tourism was just for women. And developmental projects, parang hindi na pag-uusapan pa talaga yon at the time. No, that was siguro 1990s. And then they were still talking about clean and green lang para sa mga women leaders. Yun lang pwedeng projects na gawin nila. Or kaya itong mga search for Miss Ganito at Mr. Ganon. So through the years, I feel I'm very happy that my stakeholders here in Region 8 have learned to outgrow that notion that may stereotype lang talagang jobs ang women as far as tourism is concerned. And even the focus ng trabaho natin. So dito sa DOT Regional Office 8, we have a great bias also for helping community-based tourism organizations. Why? Because you know that Region 8 is among those poorer regions. Actually, until now, meron pa yata kaming 3 provinces who are in the list of the top 4 provinces in the country. And what best way to show the tourism, the benefits of tourism really trickles down to the lowest members of the community by engaging with CBTOs or community-based tourism organizations. So our forte is really going to the remote areas in the region, finding organizations, and we're always in the lookout for women organizations whom we can bring in, whom we can empower and bring in to become productive members of the society through tourism work or by providing tourism services. So what I love the most, Randy, is not being in openings, grand openings or like that. I love most when andun ako sa community, tinuturuan namin sila kung ano ang tourism, ano ang benepisyo ng tourism, ano ang role na pwede nilang gawin sa tourism, and how they can empower themselves, provide for their families through tourism.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, RD. So yung question there is about, again, may theme na lumabas na sa slide kanina ni Manette. Again, work knows no stereotypes. When you said na dati, parang the thinking was pang tourism ang babae or pang babae ang tourism. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Kasi
activities.
Kasi tagaluto, ganoon, magaling magluto, magaling magwalis, maglinis ng ganoon, magaling na sumalubong ng So ngayon,
we now take the lead. The women now in tourism take the lead. We were the planners, we're the doers, we're the enablers. So, ganun din, if we do that at the top level, yun din ang gusto naming mangyari sa lower level of our societies. So, we've been helping a lot of women organizations. Like, let's take the case of a women's group in Paranas, Samar. They're part of the Spark Samar program of the provincial government of Samar. So, what is Paranas? It's a remote community. Actually, their influence ito ng mga illegal loggers before, at saka mga rebels actually used to thrive in that place. But when the DENR and the DOT joined forces to create tourism activities in that area, we saw the change. From becoming actually cuddlers ito sila dati ng illegal logging. They are now so proud of their work through tourism. Sila na ang nag-ooperate ngayon sa what we call the torpedo boat adventure ride. And they created 2 years ago a women's group, purely women's group, who are now operating and providing the services for the Paranas Eco Trail and Birding Site. So hindi sila nasa likod ng they're the frontliners now. Hindi lang sila tagaluto, no? Hindi lang tagalinis, but now they're proud to become guides. They're proud to become frontliners. And matutuwa talaga kayo sa dignity na nafe-feel nila ngayon. And when they speak, they really speak with so much fervor that they now believe that tourism can really make a difference sa kanila. And how we did this was actually, first, of course, we trained them, no? And then we exposed them. Kasi you cannot be a frontliner kung mahiyain ka pa. So we expose them to different kinds of settings, etc. And now, if you just, pag wala na itong pandemic, I invite you all to visit this group and see, pag kayo nag-engage sa kanila talaga, you will so be very touched.
Okay, thank you. So ma'am, is it advantage ba yon na, especially doing projects dun sa Spark Summer, is it an advantage na yung leader, provincial leader was also a woman na gano'n parang?
Pwede rin. I can say that it's an advantage. Actually, halos kami lahat na kumikilos for Spark Summer, puro mga babae, no? But then again, we do not want to discriminate the men. So we also engage with them and encourage them to take part in whatever we do. And at first, actually, ang hirap. It was so difficult to sell the idea of a Spark Summer, especially when the Samarons themselves before, they believed na talagang hanggang doon lang sila. Despite the fact that they had so many, they were rich in natural resources, sila mismo, they didn't believe that tourism can happen in their areas. And I'm really very lucky that our then governor of Samar and now the congressional representative for the 2nd district of Samar really had that passion for tourism and believed that it was one way wherein she could bring her people, uplift them from poverty, and sila mismo, they, kumbaga sabi namin, it's spark pride of people, spark pride of place, spark history. So everything they did was to spark something for Samar and of course, spark empowerment for women.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, RD. Babalikan ka namin in a bit. So now I'd like to turn to our youngest or newest member of the panel. She's a graduate of the UP Asian Institute of Tourism. Currently, she's a volunteer trainer on sexual reproductive health and rights, SOGI, and peer-to-peer education in YPeer Pilipinas, a non-governmental organization created by the United Nations Population Fund. She's also an entrepreneur. She's a co-proprietor of Seed Travels, Inc., a travel agency set up by a group of UPAIT graduates. And she also was a former host of travel shows. She did Trippers on ANC or ABS-CBN News channel. And she also hosted Discover Digest on station KFVE Hawaii. So, okay. And of course, she's also Miss Earth Ecotourism 2012, Candice Ramos. Good afternoon, Candice.
Thank you so much, sir.
Huh?
Good afternoon po.
Kamusta? How are you?
It's been great.
Huh?
You know, it's been an honor po to be amongst these very experienced and powerful women in the tourism industry.
I understand that you had just had another convention or webinar this morning sa FEU. So parang
Yes,
naglalagari ka from Ligarda to Diliman. Huh? Buti na lang walang traffic. Buti na lang walang traffic ngayon.
Everybody's doing everything online now, so it's good because I'm coded today supposedly.
Okay. Yeah. So Candice, in terms of stereotypes, ganyan, again, how women are perceived in tourism. I understand that for your undergraduate thesis in AIT, you did a study on your paper was about representation of representation of women in tourism marketing, and you also have seen it from the other side because you also do modeling and other kinds of commercial. So I wanted to talk about that because when we were starting up in tourism, one of the big issues then was sex tourism and the way that women were objectified in tourism promotions. Like women would be in very short dresses or swimsuits, regardless of the context of the, diba? And then there are those who said na in the promotion of sex tourism in the Philippines, the motto that was Philippines where Asia wears a smile had been corrupted to where Asia wears only a smile, something like that. So what do you think now about how we we portray women, how we present women in our marketing or promotion of tourism in the
Oh,
Philippines.
um, the about what I think, sir, that's a very subjective way to answer the discrimination within the industry. But my study way back in 2012 was more, it's both qualitative and quantitative. So there's really a tool which which managed to really categorize the kind of advertisements that the and gender portrayals that we show in our marketing materials in the tourism industry, to be specific. So I gathered all the materials from different um, um, tourism products that I could gather, and then based on that, there's just a tool that's going to that measure the portrayal, the gender portrayal in each picture. And so far, I think the objective answer to the question whether do we have are we gender neutral country, do we have equal representation of men and women, and maybe even girls and boys amongst the children. Yes, we also suffer from the lack of equal portrayal of men and women, but it's not as dramatic as our as other countries also high on tourism demand. So it means to say, sir, na parang mas we value more the equality amongst men and women in our country, but also primarily because I think there are several factors because of this. That's why this is the case. Because when you talk about the population graph of the Philippines, mas marami pong babae kaysa sa mga lalaki. So it's just, I think it's just but it's not that big also, hindi din dramatic yung disparity between men and women among the population. But also, so I think na it's just uh it's okay that you have more women in your tourism advertisements. It's okay that you have them in their bikinis, in their swimsuits, because we're a tropical country. We have the beaches, we have beautiful beaches. But then in my study, it tackled also the size, the proportion of men and women on pictures. Like if they're putting the men in the foreground, and the women in the background, if they're highlighting the feminine touch, we have the girls bent with their head bent down, yung mga nakabaw po. Tapos yung mga ranking in the family, for example, if it's a family picture, the women are always taking care of the kids, and the men are just, very distant from the entire family. If the female picture is withdrawn from the audience, meaning to say they're not looking at the camera, and the men are the ones looking at straight to the camera, that means they have active participation with the audience. So things like these, I studied way back in 2012, and I can still see them in our materials these days. And how do I say? But then yun nga po, it's not as dramatic as before. I think the reason why it was very important because it creates that it teaches the next group of people, or it teaches the viewers, how we should see gender in this is not exactly the reflection of how we think, but how we should see gender in our society. So that's why because I was doing also graphics design when I was studying in AIT. That's why it became very I was very interested about this. And while I was doing a travel show nga po, right after I graduated, I had an experience because I worked with two men with one of the travel shows, and I was told that I was too Well, I studied in AIT, so I I was trained to do my homework, but then I was told like word for word that maybe I think I was too smart. So um, just the way women are being treated in the tourism industry now, whether it's in the media or in practice. um, I think if you cannot catch right away on the discrimination, you'll just let it pass. It's very forgiving. You know how Filipino culture is very forgiving. So you'll just let it go. Pero kasi kapag po yun nga, you're trained to be a leader, that becomes questionable. Comments such as maybe you gained weight becomes questionable. It's okay if I receive it as a criticism. I am open to criticism, but it's not okay if my counterpart supposedly is not given the same attention. And I think it's not for me, but also for the other person, for the other gender as well, so that the person can improve himself. Just kidding. So yun po. That's so far that's my experience about gender issues in the tourism industry, and I hope it doesn't go bad as I go along the way.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Candice. So at this point, I'd like to invite our next guest now, because something struck me about what Candice said. Somebody commented that she was too smart. She was too smart, and I suppose in parenthesis yung for a woman, for a young woman. So I'd like to invite now one of the people who taught her, Professor Julene Dolnoan of the UP Asian Institute of Tourism. Professor Dolnoan was the pioneer. She was the lead advocate in the development of and institution of a standalone course on gender and tourism. Initially, it was just a special topics course, which is an elective, but now it's a required course for all undergraduate students in UP-AIT. Welcome, Julene. Good afternoon. Wala pa siyang, ano. You're still on mute?
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Hey there. Good
Julene.
afternoon, everybody. Yeah.
Julene, ano yung reaction mo dun sa you're too smart? Di ba? Parang, ano ba yun? Parang, what's the hidden message dun sa you're too smart? And parang keep it to yourself, or you better keep quiet? Ano yung,
Oo, parang keep quiet. Ganun ba yun, Candice?
Is that something, parang ganon? Is that, what do you think? Parang, is that something that still lingers in...
Yeah, meron pa ring stereotypes until now, no? That women cannot hack it, parang ganon eh. Despite having all the women leaders, no? Especially in the tourism industry, like the leaders that we have right now, no? We can still feel some, how do you call it, stereotyping, but hindi nga masyadong nilalantad. We can still, there is still what we call sexual harassment in the industry. And also, of course, there is sex tourism, diba? But it's a topic that is not very much talked about. And sex tourism, of course, is about gender, no? Because sex tourism and prostitution, no? Or the violation of women. Something that I think we have to surface and talk about some more, no? Let us discuss it some more and see why this is happening. And look into the problems, no? Kasi sasabihin natin, ang daming, we have the best, we are gender sensitive country, although medyo bumaba tayo lately because of our, tapos sasabihin na the women in the Philippines are talagang they are safe, etc. But hindi eh. Tingnan natin yung tinatawag, yun nga, just the topic of sex tourism alone, no? We are also one of the top 10 countries in the world, according to the U.S. Department of State. No, in their report, they are now coming up with yearly reports, including our country, precisely because we are in the top tier. No, so etong topic na ito na hindi masyadong pinag-uusapan sa atin sa turismo, although we try to talk about it in the academe, no, because we think since this is tourism pa rin, no, we have to discuss it and look at the systemic, no, violation of our women and children, di ba? Yung tinatawag na child sex tourism, no, and human trafficking. So sabihin natin, the laws are there, Magna Carta of Women, the Constitution of the Philippines, the dignity of women, etc. Pero hindi eh. Prostitution is illegal in the Philippines, tama? And it's actually dun sa top 10 countries in the world, puro illegal yan sa kanila. Pero dito sa atin, sino ang nahuhuli parate? It is the prostitute. Now, defining prostitute, ito yung woman usually who sells herself for money, no? How about the pimp? How about the bar owner, no? How about the buyer, no? Those who demand, wala eh, hindi pa masyado. So, in fairness, the Philippine Commission on Women is trying to come up with a policy paper in order to change this kind of tawag nito, of law, no? Kasi nga meron tayong law pero hindi pa rin masyadong na-enforce, or kung na-enforce man, usually ang nahuhuli yung babae. So yes, go ahead.
How far, with regard to that, trafficking, prostitution, in tourism, ganyan. So how far have we come, or are we still there? Like, if you remember, there was many years ago, we had a secretary of tourism who actually had to delist a particular destination. Dati pinopromote natin ng Department of Tourism itong destination na to, and then the Secretary of Tourism, who happened to be a woman, said na no, we are not going to promote this specific destination anymore because they've not done a good job of managing prostitution and child abuse in their destination. So how have we made any progress? How in that side of it?
Have we made any progress? Let's name first the destination that you're talking about, Randy. This is Pagsanhan Falls, no? Pagsanhan, which was the #1 destination at one point, no? And there was a study there, I think it was in 1983, where no less than, sino yung nag-aral noon? It was also AIT, but one of the authors was Gloria Macapagal, no? Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, who eventually became the president. They found out in that socio-cultural impact study, if I'm not mistaken, that's the title, that there was already sex tourism in the area. That was what? Right after martial law. So mga 1983 yon. Now, you're saying that how far have we gone? As I said, there are laws. We have the laws. We have the Magna Carta of Women. We have the anti-trafficking. Although hindi pa napapasa yung anti-prostitution bill, no? That was filed, I think, by Senator Pia Cayetano. Hanggang ngayon, hindi pa. How far have we gone? Yes, laws they are there, no? Implementation, medyo, I would say, we failed. We have failed. Nakakaawa yung mga biktima ng mga sex tourists who are still coming. And who are the sex tourists na nandito? I mean, the foreign tourist arrivals. You're talking of the East Asians, no? You have the Americans, US market, Europeans, no? Ito pa rin ang pumupunta sa mga known areas where, of course, ang tawag dito bars, to make it, and these women are called what? Entertainers? Guest relations officers? But you know very well what they are doing. What we want is to have, more or stricter laws that will criminalize not the prostituted woman or the women and children, but the buyers, no? The tourists, no? The tourists. Kasi sobra ang demand, edi syempre naandyan yung supply. And we know that most of these women do it because of what? Poverty, diba? They are forced into it, no? So it's systemic as well, no? But we have to really be, we have to talk and put this on the table, discuss it every now and then, and try to do something about it.
Okay, so thank you very much, Julene. So now I'd like to bring everybody into the discussion now. Because it ties into what Monette said. She wrote an article called "A Woman's Worth," entitled "A Woman's Worth." So ganyan, si Julene went in that direction in terms of ganyan, how the industry, perhaps or society, values or devalues the worth of women in many different ways. So in this afternoon, we've had many different perspectives on that. So I'd like to ask anybody from the panel, not just Julene, RD Chopez, RD Karen, Monette, Candice. So what do you think about how we in the tourism industry, how the tourism industry sees the worth of a woman? Anybody can.
When it comes to, let's say, tourism companies, and I'm talking of the MICE industry, I'm not talking of the backpackers or that sort that Julene mentioned. When it comes to the organizations, I believe that a woman's worth is recognized here in the tourism industry. And the women, actually leaders who I have had the great fortune of working with, not just in the private sector, but in the public sector, ang lalakas ng mga women leaders na nandiyan, I think the woman's worth is recognized. You asked me kanina if there was a change from before. I just want to share something very quickly. When I had just graduated from Holy Spirit, so you told na late kanina, di ba? Honors yan. So I was working for this company, so I expected that I would be recognized, for my intellect. Kaso there were going to be some Japanese investors in the company, and I was being asked to attend a dinner together with the owner of the company. And I was thinking, ano kayang contribution ko doon sa meeting na yon, no? And insist you have to go. So I attended, and then medyo nakakailang kasi parang we were not talking business. I was put there actually to be the pretty face.
Yes.
I did not like it.
Yeah.
And so I actually talked to my boss after, and I said, that was really foul of you, of putting me there, and I will never do this again. And that was one of the reasons why I resigned and I applied at AIM and went for my master's, because I felt there is much more to life and I will not allow myself to be used this way. So that was one of the reasons why I resigned. The other reason that I resigned was that I was also into HR at the time for the company, and the lawyer for the company was making advances towards me. And when I went to the wife of the owner and I said, he tried to, touch me. And she said, no, he wouldn't do that. He's a family friend. When I heard that, I resigned then and there. And I said, no way am I going to work for this kind of a company. And since then, my mantra has been, I'm going to make sure that women are protected, that women have a voice, that women are recognized for their intellect and for their capability. And that's what we do at Team Asia.
Candice, I see you nodding very vigorously, even laughing.
It's crazy. I'm just coming from the advertisement marketing side of things, not just in the tourism industry, but also in other industries, and I feel that this is very generic advances and very generic stories, that we hear in across different industries po. You'd hear comments like magtapos ka muna ng pag-aaral, bawal magbuntis, as if it's only your responsibility to be pregnant. You'll be like Mama Mary, and then you'll be pregnant eventually and not finish your studies. Or you hear comments like you got bigger or you gained weight, coming from advertisers, and I feel like your question, Foster, was about how do we progress. I think we all should contribute to the progression, not just the women, but also the men being, an active, having an active role in actually knowing also how to contribute. Like I know women are really strong, and so that's why some men would or even some women, some people are just really strong, and so they tend to some people tend to retract from them and soften them. But I just feel like it should be appreciated, in fact, because yeah, on both directions, the softer one should be appreciated, and the stronger one should be appreciated, and the criticism should be distributed, not just for the women, and also I think also for the men. I think that's the best way to progress, is to just really men will always be stronger, but women are the strongest. So we bear children, we do the household stuff, we get to be the subject of abuse in tourism, in tourism exchanges sometimes, so I think if men could help women because they're physically more capable, or because they have more capacity to go to a higher level in the society. I don't know. Is it to I don't know, to get to benefit more because they have just higher positions. Maybe if they could help their counterparts to also make way for themselves. I think that's the way to progress.
Yeah. So it sounds like we've made some progress, but there's still many of those, like the experience of Monette from when she was fresh from college is still echoed by Candice many years later. So there's a question here from about the role of women in promoting sustainable tourism in the country, but I wanted to focus it now more specifically for as women leaders, or as strong women. How do you see your role in parang changing mindsets? RD, ano ba, as DOT and immersed in the community, how do you see your role in terms of changing mindsets or attitudes about women, or making tourism more more inclusive and therefore more sustainable?
I was listening to Candice, and Candice said na men are stronger but women are more stronger than men. Actually, Randy, no, parang may nag-stick sa aking mind mula nung high school pa lang ako. My uncle, who was a priest based in the States, sent me a t-shirt and it said, "Don't send a boy to do a man's job. Send a woman." So parang since that time, talagang na-imbibe yan sa akin eh. So I learned that anything men can do, actually we can do better. So as somebody working in government, and our stakeholders, dalawa, the private sector, hindi lang dalawa, the private sector, the local government units, then we also have our partners from the media, etc. So for me, the most important tool is really communications, advocacy. Kasi no matter how many laws we have, or no matter how many good programs we have to empower women, for as long as we're not able to communicate them properly. I'll cite an example. There was one time our accreditation team went to a province here in my region, and they saw for themselves foreigners checking in with younger women, minors talaga. So they talked to the management. They said, "Why are you allowing this?" Sabi naman, natatakot silang mag-report. So see, and they didn't even know the law. So my staff told them, "We have laws that will protect you, that should protect these children." So if we do not really talk with our counterparts, our partners in development, and really paintindihin sila na itong mga laws are meant really to empower all of us to protect the women and children especially. Kumbaga, we cannot achieve as much as we would want to. So we women, especially in government, can really make a difference for as long as we're able to put up front all of these policies and laws and all.
Okay, ma'am, there's a question here also.
Okay.
Brandy?
Yes, Celine.
Yeah, I was just going to comment as well on, with what Candy said, no, that men are stronger, but women are, how do you call it, much stronger?
Men are stronger.
Yeah. Well, gender is not about, men against women. Gender equality is not pitting one against the other. What we're saying is, when we talk about tourism development, for instance, we talk about tourism development for all, no? And when we talk about the capability, you mentioned something about capability, or the capacity to do, the capability of a person, not necessarily because of his or her gender. Ganun dapat yun, di ba? Ganun dapat yun. So, but we've seen a lot where, the glass ceiling is still there. It hasn't been broken in many of our tourism companies, di ba? We see that there are some AIT graduates as well. I'm not only talking about the women, but also the LGBTQIA.
Exactly. I was about to mention that as well.
Yeah.
We will revisit that in October when we have our Pride Month.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the Pride Month.
This is Women's Month. This is not all genders month. So
okay, good. What I just wanted to say was that gender is not about pitting one, sex against the other. Okay.
Ma'am Julene, but may I add to what Ma'am Julene said? Sa amin, actually, hindi nakakahon yung programs namin for women. We make sure that we mainstream it.
Yes.
So, talagang creating a leveled off na playing field for both men and women.
Excuse me, RD. Ito yung there's a question here on the from the audience, and I wanted to ask this from you particularly kasi nga all the people that we interviewed, mga ganyan, mga big corporations, and all of us are parang more or less here coming from our urban perspective, di ba? Parang what's the situation as far as the rural areas naman? Parang is it the same? Is it difficult? Are the challenges as far as development for women in rural areas very different?
Yeah. They're very different in the sense na basically dito, that notion that men still rule above women is still there. Especially kung pupunta ka talaga sa barrios, no? Pero nowadays, siguro because of strong advocacy coming in from all sides, government, private sector, yung women naman in our areas are awakening to the fact that they're not just mere sex objects, or they're not just pang taga luto sa bahay, they're not just the mag-aalaga ng bata or gagawa ng bata. They're now realizing that women do play an important role in society. It's a difficult journey, no, for all of us dito when we try to empower our women. Kasi like when we do trainings, sasabihin, ma'am, pwedeng mag-break tayo ng 10:30 kasi magluluto pa kami. Uuwi pa kami para magluto. So talagang nakakahon pa rin yung role nila na sila at sila lang ang pwedeng magluto sa bahay at magpapakain sa mga bata. But through the work that we do, we're trying to make them see. Subtle lang, subtle. Kasi mahirap naman if talagang bibiglain mo sila, bubugbugin mo ng kung ano-anong advocacy. So subtly, we're trying to influence them and open up their eyes that they have value. Their work has value, especially if they do tourism work. They can even contribute more for both their families and their community.
Okay, so now I have a question as the token representative of the chauvinist pigs. So is there hope for men? Is there parang how can in our interviews, the ones that we flashed, several of the women mentioned they were able to achieve because they had very supportive families and particularly husbands. And then there was a comment also comment there from one of our graduates who worked in the Middle East. Sinabi niya she was fortunate to work in an organization where especially the leaders, the managers, were very progressive and supportive of women and nurturing of their career growth. So what can we do as far as developing men, what would be the men as partners of women in the tourism industry? How do we parang the two things that I mentioned was support from the family and support from the organizations, from the businesses. Okay, so what can we do as far as building that kind of culture within organizations? And it just happens that many of these organizations are led by or dominated by men. What do you think? Where do you think we should focus our attention now?
Randy?
Yes, Monette.
I think we should just focus on having this conversation. That the more conversations that we have about this, the more people will become aware. And the more people who are aware, once their eyes are opened, will realize, oh, pwede ko palang ayusin to. But I would also like to stress the importance that we women also have in terms of our families. Kasi developing values in children starts at home. Bata pa lang sila. Dapat inculcate na that everyone has an equal share in everything, pati na yung sa bahay. Gaya ng halimbawa ngayong lockdown, no? So we're all at home, but based on statistics, women are actually doing 2.5 times more work than men for the things for the house. So aside from working, maglalabay ka pa, magluluto ka pa, maglilinis ka pa, and all of that. So it behooves us, tayo mga babae, to make sure that we assign to our sons, to our brothers, to our husbands, saying, hindi pwedeng ako lang, ikaw din. Kailangan din magtrabaho. So, i-divide nyo yung task at sabihin, you do this, I do this, and we share because we are all working, we're all contributing. So, doon tayo mag-umpisa, value formation sa bahay at magsalita tayo.
Okay, thank you.
I
Thank you.
agree.
Good.
I think,
Yes.
sir,
Yes, Candice.
I think I agree because we wouldn't be able to also finish all our studies if not for the the values of the parents, having really addressing the importance of education. The comments on the on strength a while ago was a joke because biologically speaking, well, men are just really stronger. But I am saying it again because I came up with this meme or a post in one of the social media sites saying that or talking about inequalities. And the post was saying we shouldn't be talking about inequalities more, but focus more on equities. And I just it just struck me now because I realized it's not about whether you're a man or a woman. Kasi may pros and cons naman talaga on whatever assignments you have, right? But it's more about what is it that they can do and cannot do, and then we cover up for those that we cannot do. Um, Whether you're a man, woman, or in between, or within the LGBTQ community, whether you're a child or an adult. So, yun po. Naalala ko lang bigla yung equity instead of equality.
Okay. So yeah, maybe just to wrap up, we had a very very good conversation. We actually went more with our conversation that I had planned, so we don't have we don't have time anymore to get more questions from the audience. So, but just to wrap up lang, parang maybe I can go around each of you, but just a quick um, uh, uh, quick comment or idea of maybe a message of hope, like what would you now say to women in Philippine tourism, um, about where we are now and where we're going. So maybe we start with Candice. Or
I think when we're just talking about women, then that's also gender inequality. I think we should be talking about everyone else in all the members of the society, those who are impoverished, those who are in the vulnerable sector, most especially when we're in the Philippines, we're always hit by the calamities, most especially those people who are always hardly hit whenever we get calamities, whenever we get abuse in our communities. So yeah, I'm hoping that more and more people would be talking about equity instead of inequality, and more about other genders as well, and not just exclusively the women, because women will not be successful without the men, and vice versa.
okay, thank you, Candice. We
Thank you.
we dream of a day when there will be no need for a Women's Month or next we'll have Julene.
Okay. I agree with Monette that we should be having more how do you call this? Discussions like this or conversations like this. Education is very, very important if we change the situation where right now, education not only for the women but also the men as well, no, for both, because this is something that will go a long way in changing stereotypes, gender stereotypes, like what you mentioned about the role of the women at home, no? Siya yung tagaluto, tagalaba, etc., na walang bayad, no? Walang bayad 'yon, pero araw-araw ginagawa niya 'yon. And then she works outside the home. Yun ang may bayad, na mas maliit ang bayad niya. But going back, I think let's come with more conversations like this. Let's educate each one, let's be aware that the society still has a lot of gender stereotypes that has to change. And that has to start in the family, at home, di ba? Where those stereotypes where the little boy follows the father and the little girl follows what the mom does kasi babae siya, lalaki siya, has to change. Aside from the family, the schools, no, what are we teaching, no? And also, of course, the church, no? High time that we should also look into this gender stereotyping, and it has to change.
Okay, thank you, Janine. That's a very good suggestion. We'll try to have more conversations outside March. Parang we only have these kinds of conversations because it's Women's Month. We'll have more of these, more frequent, outside, and hopefully we have more men in the audience also. In the panel. Okay, so Monette, can I? Any final thoughts and?
Actually, hindi natin napag-usapan at all the big elephant in the room that we are facing right now, the pandemic. That's what I'm talking about. And the pandemic has actually hurt the tourism industry very, very much. In fact, when it started last year, ang dami namin nag-uusap na magsasarado na or we have to let people go. But what we really need to do right now is, one, to upskill. All of us should be using this downtime to make sure that we are upskilled, that we get certified, that we are able to have the digital skills that are necessary, because that's the way that things will go. No? So hindi na lang on-ground events for us organizers. We're talking of hybrid, fully virtual. So we need to get to know all of those things. So yun ang aking recommendation, babae ka o lalaki ka, kailangan mag-upskill ngayon because tourism needs us to be ready once it starts to open up. So yun, and then continue the conversations. In fact, tinatawag nga ngayon, hindi na webinar webinar.
Thank you. RD.
Randy, I'm with Monette and Julene when we talk about starting respect for women, equality between men and women. It all starts in the home, values talaga. So as parents, as mothers, we really have to instill in our family na kailangan talaga balance lahat, di ba? In terms of how we look at men and women. And I also agree with Monette when she said that during this time of pandemic, all of us, both men and women, should really prepare ourselves to face these changes that the pandemic has brought into our industry and upskill, because the field we're playing in will be totally different. Actually, it's changing because of how things are being done now due to the pandemic. And last, women tayo we're very nurturing, and everybody listens to us when we start talking, actually, especially kung yung stand natin is motherly, no? So now we play a big role in telling everybody to please follow protocol, because what is happening now in Metro Manila it's really, really very scary, and we don't want this to cascade way down to all the regions in the country. So let's start talking about we empower ourselves by helping everybody to be safe, to be well, to fight this unseen enemy called COVID-19. So gamitin natin yung pagkababae natin to help control this virus.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very, very much, RD. Thank you very much to all the panel. We have a lot of questions that we weren't able to ask. We got a lot of questions from the audience that we weren't able to ask, and I think that really just shows that that 1.5 hours is simply not enough to capture all of this breadth of issues and topics related to inclusiveness in tourism, specifically for equality for women in tourism. So, as you suggested, that maybe the solution is to have more of these kinds of conversations, so we can we can touch on all of those. So in behalf of the UP Asian Institute of Tourism and the University of the Philippines, Diliman, I'd like to thank all of our guests who generously shared their time with us. DOT Regional Director Karen Tiopes of the DOT office in Eastern Visayas. Maraming salamat po. Monet Iturralde Hamlin of Team Asia and the Women's Business Council of the Philippines. Thank you very much. Candice Ramos of YPR Pilipinas and Seed Travel. Thank you very much. And of course, Professor Julene Dulnuan. Maraming salamat po. So thank you very much to all of you who have joined us on YouTube and Facebook. Again, my apologies for not being able to raise all the questions that you posted. Please follow the AIT Facebook page and YouTube channel. We will commit to trying to organize more of these trying to organize more of these continuing conversations throughout the year. Okay, so thank you very much to everybody. Can I ask the panel to stay lang just for a very quick and Filipino tradition of photo ops. So
okay, so if you can please look at your cameras. Okay, wag po sa screen.
Okay.
5 seconds po. So
okay.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. And another one, please.
Ay, ganun pa lang.
One more.
We do the International Women's Day challenge. I choose the challenge pose. Okay.
Okay.
Dapat pala. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat po.
Pleasure to be with you all.
Salamat po.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you, Monet. It's very, very nice to meet you.
Stay safe.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
Candice, thank you very much.
Salamat po.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Dean.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Balik na ako sa aming workshop.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good luck
Bye,
po.
RDT. Bye. Bye, Candice. Bye, Monet.
Salamat po. It's nice to see everyone po.
Glad to see you again. Ciao, ciao, everyone.
Vic.